Okay, I'll call the meeting to order at 7:03. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Ms. Billman,
Here.
Mr. Fell,
Here.
Mr. Hopkins,
Here.
Ms. McFarland,
Present.
Ms. Sims,
Here.
Mr. Allred,
Here?
and Mr. Andreessen.
Here.
Nice.
All right, it worked. Okay, so we have a quorum. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are none.
Approval of the minutes from the April 21st, 2022 regular meeting of the Plan Commission. Are there any motions or comments on the minutes from our last meeting?
I will move to
Mr.
approve minutes.
Any second? So we have a motion by Mr. Fell and a second by Mr. Hopkins. Any discussion of the minutes? Any changes? All right, if not, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. Do we have any communications?
I did not receive any for the special use permit for the Champaign County Jail consolidation, and
I did receive some for the Tapman Towing special use permit that I will present during the case. I did distribute them to you.
Those were the communications in the original packet or something new?
In last Friday, when the reminder went out, 2 new communications went with that.
Okay.
And then the one that I distributed today was one that was received yesterday.
Okay. All right. So we have no continued public hearing, no old business, which brings us to our new public hearing for plan case number 2447 SU22, a request by Andrew Fell on behalf of BWC Tundra LLC for a special use permit to allow operation and expansion of a towing service at 810 East Perkins Road and 1002 East Perkins Road in the B3 General Business Zoning District.
Before we begin, I will obviously be recusing myself from this case.
All right, sounds good. So I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Ricci.
Thank you. This is a request by Andrew Fell on behalf of BWC Tundra LLC for a special use permit to allow operation and expansion of a towing service at 810 and 1002 East Perkins Road in the B3 General Business Zoning District. The existing business, Tapman Towing, currently stores its service vehicles outside on a gravel parking area, which you can see here a little bit in the photograph. The applicant requests a special use permit to construct a towing service building, parking area, and access drive. The proposed building would allow it to maintain and store their service vehicles inside, as well as pave much of the gravel parking area around the building. The zoning ordinance allows a towing service in the B3 district with a special use permit. The Plan Commission must review the special use permit application, hold a public hearing, and make a recommendation to City Council. Staff recommends that the Plan Commission forward the case to City Council with a recommendation of approval with the condition included in the staff report. We did receive 2 communications after the initial packet was emailed. These were emailed to you last week. We received an updated site plan from the applicant yesterday, which was just distributed before the meeting. I will address that during the presentation. A few extra copies are available and are available on request. Tapman Towing has operated at this location since before the property's annexation into the city of Urbana in 1977. In 2005, Robert Myers, Urbana's planning manager, issued a notice of proper zoning acknowledging that the existing towing service was a legally conforming use, allowing it to continue operation. The requested special use permit would allow expansion of the existing special use.
Mr. Ricci, you mean legally non-conforming or?
No, legally conforming.
Conforming, okay.
Legally conforming. Due to the fact that it was in operation when it was annexed into the city. Did I say conforming? Okay, all right, cool. As you can see on Exhibit A, the towing service currently operates on the west side of the zoning lot. The zoning lot is 2 parcels, 806 and 1002 East Perkins, on the north side of Perkins Road, east of Cunningham Avenue. Other nearby uses include Dust and Sun Auto Supplies, Hickory River Smokehouse and StoreQuest Economy Storage to the north, Willow Springs Condominium Subdivision to the east in the Champaign County, one residence also in Champaign County, and a multi-business contractor building to the south on the other side of Perkins Road. Table 1 summarizes the zoning and the future land use designations. You can see here that the 2 properties, as well as the properties to the north and west, are zoned B3 general business in the city, and the properties to the east are zoned R3 in the county. Properties to the south are zoned Ag 1 in the county, and to the southeast is also R3 in the county. And future land use designations, these properties and everything along Cunningham Avenue are designated for community business. To the east and south are either multifamily or residential. Currently county land, but this is projecting future land use if it were to move into the city. The business dispatches tow service vehicles to relocate clients' vehicles back to the property or to other sites. Dispatch and tow service maintenance activities are conducted in the existing 4,700 square foot building in the northwest corner of the property. That's the building that is shown here. It's also the building shown on this aerial with the little green pin. Both tow service vehicles and relocated or towed vehicles are currently stored outside in the north and east portions of the property inside a partially screened chain link fence. That's this ring of vehicles along here, and in toward the back there are a few up front here that are typically towing service vehicles. All parking areas are currently gravel, with the access drives being concrete, gravel, and unimproved. This picture is looking at the property from the west. Here are relocated vehicles. Here's the fence. Here's the edge of the existing building. This is the eastern lot. You can see a gap in the landscaping along the fence row here. Good landscaping along here, fairly good landscaping along here. This is actually pretty dense landscaping, kind of short, but like 4 or 5 feet tall, across the other side of the street. This is looking at the east parcel more closely. It is, unimproved. This is the east side here. Again, you can see the gap in the landscaping. There is a fence along the property line as well. This is the south property line with some scattered landscaping, and this is the existing chain link fence with the relocated vehicles inside. This is Perkins Road along the south side of the property. This is the original proposed site plan. The proposed 8,593 square foot building, which is 80 by 108, would provide additional space to service the towing vehicles and to store them indoors. The existing, and that is this building here. This is another aerial. It shows the proposed building area here, approximately 8,500 square feet. This kind of N-shaped area actually looks like a vernier caliper for those of you who are familiar with those. This is the area of gravel parking that would then be topped with asphalt millings and compacted. And then this access lane would extend to the east, also of asphalt millings, down to a new access drive that would be of concrete. Going back to the site plan, you can see this N-shaped area of asphalt millings and a new entrance with a sliding gate. The existing 6-foot high chain link fence around the relocated vehicle storage area would be removed. Most of the existing gravel parking area on 3 sides of the building would be topped with asphalt millings. The new parking area includes 15 new parking spaces in addition to the existing 19 parking spaces, fulfilling the minimum parking requirement. A new 6-foot high chain link fence was proposed to be installed east of the new access drive, also enclosing a large unpaved area. That would be, so here is the edge of the proposed parking area. The fence is here. The property line is here. This is all undeveloped area. No parking would be allowed on that. Screening would be required for several reasons. First, the county R3 residential district to the east and the residential use to the south of this B3 zoned subject property requires the applicant to install a 6-foot high solid wood or masonry fence. Second, the areas of off-street parking of tow service, visitor, and employee vehicles must be screened from the residential districts and uses to the south and east with either landscaping or a solid fence or wall 4 to 6 feet in height. Third, the requirement to screen outdoor storage from all public rights-of-way and adjacent residential uses or district applies to the towed vehicles of a towing service. In that case, screening can be a 6 to 8 foot high solid fence, berm, or wall. In this case, walls and fences longer than 40 feet require additional landscaping of 1 tree and 3 shrubs every 40 feet. This screening would be required along the south and east sides of the property around the storage area. And we looked at that. This is the revised site plan that was submitted today. Changes are in the location of parking spaces to accommodate larger vehicles. Also, you can see here is where the original fence was, or the fence was originally proposed, just east of the access drive. It is now proposed to be pushed further east to as close as practicable to the landscaping on the east property line. It notes, I will zoom in a little bit for you, if it will let me. There we go. It says new 6-foot wood fence, and it says infill existing landscape screen as required. So this would essentially provide a 6-foot tall solid wood fence on both the south and east sides of this parcel, and both sides. Here you actually show the boxwoods with the trees down here, and the east side is utilizing that existing landscaping and infilling any gaps. So that is what is being proposed now. The proposed fences along and added landscaping along the south and east property lines would fulfill the screening requirements for the proposal. Existing landscaping on the subject property may be used to fulfill screening requirements that allow landscaping as an option. Landscaping must be replaced when it no longer provides screening. So if some of those plants, are long in the tooth and they die 2 years from now, and we learn about it, or we're notified about it, or we see it during monitoring, they would be required to replace those parts of the landscaping. And that is the same for any project that has required screening. As far as public input goes, as required by the zoning ordinance, staff published legal notice of the requested special use permit in the News Gazette. Staff also posted the required sign at the site of the request, notifying the public of the upcoming public hearing. And finally, staff mailed letters to the owners of record of parcels within 320 feet of the bounds of the subject property. Operators of 2 neighboring businesses submitted letters of support for the request. Those were in the original initial packet. 2 letters of concern were submitted by Ed Clancy, a resident and president of the Three Willows Condominium Association, the subdivision to the east, on behalf of several of the residents. Concerns expressed included screening, stormwater management, site lighting, and the unstated use of the east parcel. Suggestions for the screening included changing the east chain link fence to a solid wood fence, possibly taller, or a short concrete wall with a wood fence on top. In response to the concerns expressed, staff conducted additional research and provide the following information. The screening provided in the revised site plan would fulfill the requirements of the zoning ordinance and meet most of the neighbors' suggested construction, which is a solid wood fence. The site plan has been reviewed by John Zeman, city engineer, and must meet city's requirements for stormwater management. The building and site plans, as far as site lighting goes, the building and site plans proposed 8 exterior building wall-mounted light fixtures controlled by photocells. No other new site lighting is proposed. A photometric plan is required and must comply with the zoning ordinance to ensure minimal off-site light trespass. And finally, no use of the east parcel is proposed, including parking of vehicles. The application for the proposed special use permit demonstrated that it fulfilled the 3 criteria. First, the property is convenient to the public because of its location near Cunningham Avenue and Interstate 74, allowing tow service vehicles to use main roads designed for heavy-duty vehicles, as well as for customers and employees to reach the facility. The towing service has operated at this location since at least 1977, and it is an established piece of the fabric of the neighborhood. Second, the towing service would continue to be operated so as not to be injurious or detrimental to the B3 zoning district or injurious to the general public. This development is intended to house existing business vehicles and provide better facilities to maintain them. It is not intended to expand the business's scope or its hours or scope of operations. No expansions to vehicle fleet or staff are planned. The proposed asphalt milling parking area and concrete access drive would minimize would eliminate gravel parking and access areas, reducing gravel migration and dust. The added screening will make the outdoor parking and storage areas less visible from the adjacent residential areas. And third, the special use permit would allow the existing towing service to expand while maintaining legal conformity to the regulations and standards of and preserving the essential character of the B3 General Business Zoning District. The proposed business and parking areas are being reviewed by city staff, including zoning, building, and engineering compliance. The revised site plan has been proposed for review by Plan Commission. Minimal changes are likely to be needed to meet full compliance with city and other regulations. The findings are summarized in the staff report, and I've reviewed them during the presentation. The Plan Commission has the following options in Plan Case 2447 SU22 to recommend approval of the special use permit to City Council without any additional conditions, to recommend approval of the special use permit to City Council with any conditions deemed appropriate or necessary for the public health, safety, and welfare, or to recommend denial of the special use permit to City Council. If Plan Commission elects to do so, it should articulate the findings supporting its denial. Based on the evidence presented in this discussion, staff recommends that the Plan Commission recommend approval of the proposed special use permit in Plan Case number 2447 SU22 with the following condition. Construction must be in general conformance with the attached site plan entitled Tapman's Towing, New Construction, 810 East Perkins Road, Urbana, Illinois, Sheet A2 site plan dated June 8th, 2022. And that is the end of my presentation. I believe we have members from the applicants and their architecture team here that are ready to answer questions if necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Ricci.
Yes.
Any questions for staff? Mr. Hopkins?
Are there any restrictions or requirements on what can be done with what amounts to the remaining undeveloped land under this special use permit?
No, other than that they are not allowed to park vehicles on an unapproved surface, which is not necessarily part of the special use permit. It's part of the zoning ordinance in general.
Okay, so
This special use permit, the site plan shows
they
a
essentially
blank slate there.
can't do anything with that space, other than
Nothing that would require any sort of development.
or parking anything there.
Correct.
They can mow the grass.
They can mow the grass.
Assuming there's grass.
They can regrade it as necessary to prepare the
Yeah.
site for the rest of the development.
Okay.
Other questions for staff? Mr. Andreessen, if you have a question, you can speak up too. So I have a question,
Yes.
Mr. Ricci. So when we, the recommendation from staff references the site plan, is that now the site plan that has been submitted today?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the one dated June 8th.
Just a question, since this is something we haven't had a chance to look at, the parking has shifted and is now, it looks like the parking is in the setback. Is that something that is allowed per the zoning ordinance, or?
That's-
I didn't have a chance to look at that.
Parking is allowed in a required setback up to 18 inches from the property line.
Okay,
So even on a house lot, you can actually pave up to the property line, but stop parking 1.5 feet from the edge. So they can park in the required yard.
okay. As far as the concern that was mentioned in one of the communications about stormwater management and the
Yes.
impact of, I guess, the increased paved areas on stormwater that the site generates, the memo mentioned something about an existing basin being used, but I didn't see that show up on any of the site plans. Is there any information
Yes.
that can be provided in terms of how stormwater is going to be managed?
If we will, yes, good, okay. There is essentially a stormwater detention basin that operates on a scale larger than this parcel, individual parcel. This area was developed decades ago. And as Public Works and Engineering divisions review this proposed development, they will be looking at it on this more regional scale. It has been an interesting case. So here you can see is the developed western lot and the undeveloped eastern lot. This is the self-storage area here to the north, and this is I'll call it a micro-regional stormwater detention area, where essentially, and I'm speaking outside my expertise, this area's water flows to that stormwater detention area. And that's what the engineering division and city engineer will ensure, that any increased water flow is routed as it's supposed to be and won't exceed the capacity of those detention areas. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. One other question. So I'm a little confused about the background of this. So it existed pre-annexation.
Yes.
Was there, I guess what I'm really trying to get at is, was there an initial special use permit, and were there any conditions that went along with that? Or was it just what was described in the memo as you said, it was approved by a planning director at the time and considered legally conforming, was the word used?
Oh, did I might not have brought that with me. A special use permit was not applied for. Robert Myers essentially, there was an inquiry, there was a change of ownership of the business. That change of ownership required a zoning sign-off by the local zoning official saying that this use is okay in this district. And Robert Myers said, okay, this was a pre-existing use before the property was annexed into the city. And we are determining that it is a legally conforming towing service in this district at this location. I think it went on to say there is no special use permit, but we are determining that it's legally conforming.
Okay.
Now, as such, it would be operating under a special use permit that wasn't actually issued, so that meant that if any expansion would require another special use permit.
Okay. Which is how we find ourselves here today.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Any other questions for staff?
Thank you.
All right. So I'll go over the rules for a public hearing. The petitioner or the applicant can now address the commission, and then we may have some questions. Then anyone in favor will be allowed to address the commission. Anyone opposed will be allowed to address the commission. Then if needed, the petitioner can address the commission and respond to the comments at that point. Then we'll close the public input portion, discuss, and possibly vote. Does the petitioner, Mr. Fell, I assume that's you, do you wish to address the commission, or? Okay.
So I'm Adrienne Kim. I think Marcus did a great job. So I'm just here to answer any questions, or try to answer questions that you might have, if you have any.
Great. Is Ms. Kim, is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Kim from the commission?
Yeah, I just wondered what the building's gonna look like.
I think you had images, actually, of the elevations that we can pull up. Can I use this?
The exterior of the building, not the,
Yeah. Is that in here?
not the
somewhere?
elevation.
Hmm? Do you mean of the building that's being proposed?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's in here somewhere. Yeah, I saw that in the thing that was online. Yeah, I think that's what she wants. Okay, I can navigate. Okay, let's close that. So, eventually. Do have building elevations right here.
Okay.
So I would say this is consistent with what is currently there.
And what are the materials? Is that metal?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yes, metal siding.
Sorry, that didn't come through
Yeah,
this well when I looked at it.
yeah, that's okay.
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 Any other questions for Ms. Kim? Mr. Andreessen, any questions?
No, I do not.
All right. All right. If there are no more questions, then we'll open it up to the public. If anyone would like to address the commission, you can come forward and sign in. All right. Seeing as we have no one that wants to address the commission, we'll declare the public input portion closed and go into a discussion and possibly entertain a motion to vote. So is there any discussion on the proposal from the commission? Ms. Billman?
Oh, I'm just wondering if, in the communications, if we satisfied any of the concerns. I mean, and I didn't hear anything from the audience about that.
So the concerns that I jotted down were screening,
Drainage,
lighting, and stormwater,
yeah.
right? So it sounds like the screening is
Mhm.
being taken care of. The stormwater, assuming that the engineer is
Mhm.
checking.
Anything about the lighting? It's in compliance, okay,
Yeah.
sorry. It seems like basically they want to put in a new building and clean up the place.
Right. That's how I'd interpret it. Mr. Hopkins?
I move we send plan case 2447-SU-22 based on the June 8th revised site plan to the city council with recommendation of approval.
So we have a motion by Mr. Hopkins. We have a second. Second by Ms. Billman. Any further discussion? All right, could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Hopkins,
Yes.
Ms. Billman,
What?
Ms. Billman,
Yes.
Ms. Sims,
Yes.
Ms. McFarland,
Yes.
Mr. Allred,
Yes.
and Mr. Andreessen.
Yes.
All right, that motion passes. Do we have a date for council on that one? No?
I believe it will go to the July 11th meeting.
Okay. All right. So moving on to plan case number 2449 SU-22, a request by Chris Beiser, hopefully I got that right, Reifsteck Reed Architects, on behalf of Champaign County for a special use permit to allow an expansion of the Champaign County Detention Center at 502 South Learman Avenue in the CRE Conservation, Recreation, Education Zoning District.
Yes.
Ms. Trotter, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. I'm pulling up the presentation now. All right. This is a request by Reefsec Reed Architects on behalf of Champaign County for a special use permit to allow for an expansion of the Champaign County Detention Center at 502 South Learman Avenue in the CRE Conservation, Education, Recreation, and Education zoning district. Staff finds that the case meets the special use permit criteria and therefore recommends that the Plan Commission recommend approval of the request with one condition. This is a location map of the property. I've called out some of the nearby uses, but in general, this is the Champaign County office complex. The adult detention center is called out in the middle with the hatched outline. The site is approximately 20 acres and part of the larger Champaign County complex. It's located on the east side of Learman Avenue, south of Main Street, and north of Washington Street. Here's a zoning map. And the parcel lines on this property are kind of funky, but this site in particular is zoned CRE, and it's part of a larger PIN. The existing satellite adult detention center was originally allowed at this location as a government use / building with a special use permit in 1995. Champaign County requests a special use permit to allow for the consolidation of operations that are currently split between this location and the downtown detention center. The downtown detention center is uninhabitable and was closed down earlier this year. Granting the special use permit would allow for the expansion of the existing operation at this location, including an addition to the existing satellite detention center. This is a future land use map. Hop back to this. The site is zoned CRE, Conservation, Recreation, Education. The adjacent properties are zoned R4, medium density, and R6, high density, multiple family residential to the north, R4 to the east, CRE to the south, and IN2, heavy industrial to the west. The complex uses include the Brookins Administrative Center, Champaign County Juvenile Detention Center, Canada and Prairie Parks, and other Champaign County offices. The future land use designation for the site is institutional, and the Champaign County Adult Detention Center use is consistent with that designation. In May 2011, the National Institute of Corrections evaluated existing county jails, focusing on the downtown Champaign County Correctional Center at 204 East Main Street. The NIC found that the downtown facility was in deplorable condition and cited disparate gender treatments and issues with treatments for inmates with special needs. In 2012, the Institute for Law and Planning Policy found that the downtown facility suffered from serious structural and mechanical issues and cost-prohibitive staffing. These are a few photos of the satellite detention center, not to be confused with the downtown center. The special use permit in this case would allow for the consolidation of the downtown and satellite detention centers by expanding the satellite facility and centralizing the majority of Champaign County facilities, staffing, and resources in that location. The proposed addition would allow detainees to be relocated away from downtown Urbana to the satellite site, which would allow for that site to be brought into further compliance with NIC standards and the ILLP master plan. Couple more photos. This is the north side of the satellite detention center, and this is the east side where the addition would be built on. Champaign County would construct an addition onto the eastern side of the site behind the existing building. The current facility is operationally insufficient and non-compliant with the American Correctional Association requirements, as 4% of the facility's capacity is single occupancy cells, where 10% is required. The applicants state that the inmates are faced with serious security, behavioral, and health challenges in multi-occupancy cells. The addition would include 2 new housing pods, one with 49 beds and one with 29 beds, which would address the deficiency in single occupancy cells. The new total capacity would be 219 standard compliant beds. The expansion would allow for sight and sound separation between male and female inmates and accommodate the existing and potential overflow populations. This is the floor plan for the addition. So in gray on the left-hand side of your screen, that's the existing satellite facility. On the right in black and white is the proposed addition. So to summarize the special use permit application, staff found that the application meets all 3 special use permit criteria. The existing satellite detention center has been at this location since 1995. The site is located near other governmental and institutional uses and is not adjacent to any residential uses. The proposed addition to the satellite facility would allow for the consolidation of the downtown and satellite facilities and would centralize the majority of the county correctional facilities staffing and resources in one location. The requested special use permit would only allow for the current governmental use to be expanded. It would not allow for a change in use. The special use permit would also allow for the existing facility to be brought into compliance with ACA standards and would allow for the relocation of detainees out of downtown Urbana. It would not be unreasonably injurious or detrimental to the district, as the satellite and juvenile detention centers already exist in the area. The use as a correctional facility will remain the same and is consistent with the future land use designation for the property. The existing satellite detention center already conforms to the standards of and preserves the essential character of the surrounding area, and it has operated at this site since 1995. It's surrounded by other governmental and institutional uses. Staff published a legal ad in the News Gazette to notify the public of the request and public hearing 15 days prior to the Plan Commission meeting. Staff also sent letters to 13 neighboring property owners notifying them of the request and posted a public hearing sign on the property. We did not receive any formal public input. The Plan Commission has the following options on the requested special use permit: forward the case to City Council with a recommendation of approval, forward the case to City Council with a recommendation to approve the special use permit with additional conditions, or forward the case to City Council with a recommendation of denial. Staff recommends that the Plan Commission forward the case to City Council with a recommendation of approval with the condition that the proposed addition will be in general conformance to the site plan in Exhibit D. The applicants are here to make a statement. I can, of course, take questions for staff.
Great, thank you, Ms. Trotter. Any questions for Ms. Trotter? Ms. Billman?
Yeah, I'm just going to ask again on this one. Do you have an exterior, what it's going to look like from the outside?
I do not have it on me. There was a package of plans that Reef Tech Reed brought to us during a pre-development meeting, and they may have some of them with them tonight. But we mostly looked at floor plans and site plans for the special use permit.
Any other questions for staff? I'm just curious, maybe this is internal to the county, but I know one of the impacts are that this area is used as sports fields for youth sports, but I assume that there's been a discussion with the park district, or do you know if that's something that's...
Yeah, they were notified as part of the notification process for the special use permit. I did not hear anything from them personally, and I'm not sure if Reef Tech Reed has heard anything from them in addition to that. But there are some Prairie Park renovations planned, so they're closing down a few of those fields, but still the park uses will remain the same.
Okay.
I drove out there, and there's really nothing very close to that.
It's quite a big site. This site in particular is 20 acres or so, and that's just the jail site itself. It's part of a larger pin that's a couple hundred acres.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if they had, I know there were fields, one of your pictures that you showed, maybe number 10, slide 10 there, shows the soccer goals.
Oh, yeah.
It's across the street.
The area?
Yeah, it's across the street
Oh, okay.
near Brookins, and so there are 2 soccer fields, but across the street it doesn't impinge on that area, so.
Okay.
And the Parks Department is building a wellness center, but it'll
Right.
be closer to Washington,
Washington,
right,
yeah.
Washington,
Yeah.
and down by the school, so.
Okay.
I can't, it
Down.
doesn't change the use of the space.
Right.
All right, if there are no further questions for staff, then we can move into a public hearing again. And we'll invite the petitioner or the applicant or their representative to address the commission.
I'm Chuck Reefsteck and Brant Muncaster with Reefsteck Reed Architects. Also in the audience are the county executive and the sheriff. I did bring the drawing so I could show you an image of the exterior if you're interested in that. And also, I think Darlene mentioned she has spoken with the Park District if you'd like to know about that.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I just wanted to mention that we are very conscious that the space that we use is shared with the Park District. We're continue that relationship as much as possible. And the area that is used, that we're proposing for this particular addition to the jail facility itself, is not one of the actual fields that's used. It's not a designated field that they play soccer. The things that occur up there sometimes are picnics or sometimes just practicing or running around. They use it sometimes for long distance running as part of the track, but it's a hillier area and it's not really used for the Park District activities.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Trying to locate the elevations here. Should be coming up here, Brent, right? Yeah, so it'll be a masonry building. Sorry, those are probably pretty small to see, aren't they? But the forms are in character with the existing satellite jail. The existing jail is precast concrete. This will be brick masonry. Also, the existing jail has no exterior windows in the pods, housing pods. We will, because our secure perimeter is inboard of the exterior wall, so the inmates will get borrowed light from the exterior into their cells and day rooms. So, you know, unlike the existing jail is really a two-tiered housing unit, so there's a mezzanine level of cells. Because a lot of the inmates that will be in these particular two pods that we're building are behavioral problems, mental health problems, things like that. This will be a one-story solution, so we're not accompanying inmates upstairs and things like that. So it'll be all at one level.
Any questions for the petitioner?
What is the agency that sets the requirements?
Well, so there's the Illinois jail standards. Those are the ones that the jail inspectors from the state will walk the facility and make sure we're in compliance with, and we'll be submitting drawings to them for review as well. The ACA that was mentioned aren't required per se, but you can go for ACA accreditation, which protects the county that you're doing everything national standards seem to imply need to be done for jails. So we're trying to be in conformance with the ACA as well.
What's the landscaping going to be?
Well, right now it'll just be grassed like it is, pretty much like it is now, just a grassed lawn. I think we're trying to avoid elements in the landscape that people could hide behind, because one of the problems a jail often has are people from the outside trying to get in and see their friends, or, you know, look in windows, things like that. So we're trying to keep that pretty much open lawn so that our cameras on the building can have good view of who's approaching the building. part of the landscape too will be the expansion of stormwater detention. Right now are in 2 basins on the west side of the building. The southwest detention basin will be expanded to accept the additional impervious area created by the addition.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Any other questions for the petitioner? Mr. Andreessen, any questions?
No.
All right. If there are no other questions, then we'll open it up to our public input, and I'm assuming we don't have anyone from the public to provide any comments, in which case we will close the public input portion, discuss, and possibly vote.
Great, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. No.
So is there any discussion on the proposal? Are we ready to make a motion?
Yeah. I move that we send plan case 2449-SU-22 to the city council with the following condition, that it generally conforms to the attached site plan in Exhibit D. And we send this to city council with a recommendation for approval.
All right. So we have motion by Ms. Billman,
Second.
second by Mr. Hopkins. Any further discussion? All right. Could we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Ms. Billman,
Yes.
Mr. Hopkins,
Yes.
Mr. Allred.
Yes.
Sorry, slow. Ms. McFarland,
Yes.
Ms. Sims,
Yes.
and Mr. Andreessen,
Yes.
and Mr. Fell.
Yes.
Okay. That passes. Is that the same date for council, July 11th?
That is not. I have a correction on that one. Marcus's case will go to the June 27th meeting of the city council. Because the Champaign County Jail case involves new construction, that one will go to committee of the whole on the 20th.
Of July? Or
Of
June?
June, sorry.
Okay. All right. Do we have any new business?
We do not.
Audience participation. Our audience has left. Okay. Well, I'm assuming that we have no one that wants to provide additional comments. Do we have a staff report?
We do not.
And I'm assuming we don't have a study session?
No.
Are we planning to do our closed session tonight?
We are planning to do that, if
Okay.
that's okay with everyone. It's a short presentation. I think it's about 10 minutes long. We'll go into closed session to watch the video, and then have any discussion or questions, if necessary. So,
Before we do that,
Sure.
can we go back to the staff report portion? Are there any updates on anything that we've moved to council? Mainly the R7 zoning.
yes, R7 and the solar text amendment were both approved at the May 23rd meeting, I believe. They were approved pretty much, I think, as presented to Plan Commission. So that was,
The one change in the solar zoning text amendment was, city council wanted, solar farms to require a special use permit in any of the zoning districts that they would be permitted in. So even in agricultural. So everything will come to Plan Commission and then to City Council. They also recommended, and we struck several of the zoning districts that they would be allowed with a special use permit, things like R7 University Residential, things like B1 Neighborhood Business for solar farms.
So you're saying they're not permitted in these areas?
Solar farms, not solar arrays. So a principal use solar farm, which when you look at it, would have to be at least 3 acres in size to be economically viable anyways. And the ability to aggregate R6 or MOR district parcels to create a 3-acre aggregated parcel would be impossible anyways. So even though, you could say, well, you may as well leave those zoning districts in there as an option, even if one is never proposed in there, they thought it made a better sense to strike the non-practical zoning districts.
All right, thanks for the update. So do we need a motion to move to the closed session? Can I get a motion?
I make a motion that we move to the closed session.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Sims. Do we need to just do it then, or?
I think we need a second and then
Or we do- we need a
voice vote, or we
Voice
can do
vote?
roll
Okay.
call vote.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. McFarland. So we'll do a voice vote on that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we are in a closed session.